Welcome to the Carr and Seguin Show, hosted by Devon Carr and Paul Seguin, where two Michiganders dive into real estate, outdoors, community building, and everything in between. Episode 54.
Yes, sir.
We're halfway to 108.
There you go.
Let's go.
All right.
I love it. Well, we're bringing this might become a recurring theme, which is cool because actually when Devon told me that we were going to be having a Tim Hooker back on, I was like, heck yeah, let's go. Always a good conversation. I love talk. I'm a big numbers guy. I love talking about numbers, and that's all the stock market is. It's just a bunch of numbers.
Right.
But you want to make them grow.
Yeah.
You want to see those numbers increase.
Not decrease.
Oh, no. And if
people behind those numbers.
Huh?
There's people behind those numbers.
Right.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very important people behind those numbers. And without them, they wouldn't go anywhere. That is very true.
Right.
So, welcome back again for the third time coming on the show. I'd have to say you are the highest repeating customer that we've had, a client or whatever you want, a guest on our show. So you are, it is our honor and pleasure to have you back on. But Timothy Hooker from Dynamic Wealth Solutions is back on us with today to just kind of do a little market update, see where things are at, and we'll go from there. So where are we starting off first, boys?
Yeah, I think, February 21st, 2021, there's a heck of a lot different market environment. That's really where you saw a lot of the growth stocks, like ARK, peak. So that's been a big a risk-off movement that started almost a year ago.
Right.
And some call that a bubble. In hindsight, that's all we can say in hindsight.
Right.
But, I don't know if you've ever been able to pull up the ARK chart.
ARK chart.
So just type in ARKK in like Google Finance and just get a look at that chart in the past year since we've basically had our first podcast.
So is this ARK Innovations ETF, or am I looking at
Yes.
something wrong? That's correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, Paul. And it's that's really where the growth stocks fell off. You had value stocks, dividend stocks doing better. And historically, that doesn't really happen the past decade. So it's been a big paradigm shift since we were first talking. I mean, that's when all the meme stocks, GameStop went crazy.
Right.
A lot of explosive euphoria, and it's really blown off the top. So it's been a challenging environment for growth investors. But if you're a dividend investor, energy, oil investor, you're doing well this year. I think we talked about that in the November 3rd, 2021 episode where
we did.
Talked about oil prices going higher, and look at us now, what we're paying.
Yeah.
We try not to think about it.
So basically, what's happened since? You have
Right.
ARK growth stocks down, bonds are slightly down too. You have gold up in the past year. So that's a hedge that I advise for investors to have minimum 5% in gold. But as far as that, there's a lot of opportunities. So
tell me
how
a
do you
little
guys
bit.
feel about the market? Are you doing anything on Robinhood or E-Trade or anything yourselves?
So I actually have not. I've not done too much moving really of what I have. All my stuff is, in EXP really, to be honest. I have obviously contributing to that every deal that I do, and it's it's a little hurting right now for sure. Just to obviously compare where we were from, but
Right.
But what? Tell me a little, like this ARK. What is this? Can you?
That was one of the top performing funds after COVID, Corona crash, as they call it now.
Yeah.
And it was outperforming QQQ. Kathy Wood was the top manager of the year in 2020, and then 2021, the fund got crushed basically. So that's a good beacon of risk. And then you have Bitcoin, since we've touched on that many times.
Right.
So they're just a phone company? that what you said?
No, Bitcoin.
No, ARK.
Oh no, ARK's an innovation ETF. So think of like Tesla, Zoom, anything that's kind of pushing the future, the edge of
So what do they particularly do though?
So ARK is like a basket of stocks, kind of like a mutual fund.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah. So ARK is like the ticker for this basket of stocks. And then you have SPY, just SPY. That's the basket of stocks for the S&P 500. So that's a
I mean, they shot up. I mean, they were.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, March of trying to play my little cursor here. March of 2020, right? Your Corona crash. They were down to $37.81. And then fast forward to February 10th of 2021, $153. And then since then, I mean, pretty quick. 2 weeks later, they dropped all the way down to 139. A couple months later, down to 109. And then really where this just fell off was like our last show, November of 21 that we did together. Right after that, they've just...
Yeah, we timed the peak.
What the crap? But I think ARK has been listening to our show.
Probably.
We brought on Timothy Hooker on February 21. They were at their all-time peak. Boom.
Yep.
He starts saying invest in energy and gas, and then it just tanks.
Luckily, I've listened through them. I don't think I said ARK.
No, you didn't. Nope. That's why I'm asking you right now, like, who the heck is this ARK? I've never even heard of him.
I know. Thank goodness.
It might be some FEC sanctions going on here.
Yeah,
no, that's crazy
advice. Though. Not personal advice here, but it is it's just a good beacon of risk on and off.
Hey, that definitely goes to this man knows what he's talking about.
Right
here. I mean, if that doesn't tell you something, right? So then the question is, today is what? March 18th. What do we need to do? What's the next steps here? Because every time we bring you on, something happens. So I want to be on that boat that goes up.
That's right. And right now it's more so, if you're already invested for a long time horizon, just don't worry about it. But if you're looking for like, hey, I need this money in maybe 5 years, probably shouldn't have all equities like ARK. You should have some gold, like I said before, just looking at like a portfolio construction style of investing for 5 years. You got to have some gold in there, bonds, just to stay diversified and don't try to make too many tactical moves through this volatility. But for a short-term trader, I mean, ARK, if it rebounds, as much as it fell, it could rebound. Okay, could take 2 years, but that's another opportunity.
Yeah,
so
right.
You got to look at it from both lenses. You got to stay open-minded to it and look at what they own and why they own it. But then also, like I said before, dividend stocks are doing very well this year. So let me just go and let's think of some dividend stocks like Coca-Cola, the classic kind of companies that are making strong cash flow right now, because with inflation higher, that future cash flow is going to be discounted for those growth companies. So that's why those growth companies are going down. But yeah, from a portfolio construction view, you might want to exclude those kind of companies and stick to some high dividend, low volatility stocks. So
wow, they've just skyrocketed over the last 2 years as well.
What?
Coca-Cola? Shit, man. 2 years
it.
ago, back in March 2020, they were at like, what, 280? And now they're sitting at 507.
It's probably because there's more drinking that's happening or was happening. So they need to mix their drinks with Coke. That's probably what it was.
More Jack and Cokes are happening nowadays.
Yeah, that's what was going on.
Everybody's all stressed out. Whoa. This chair is stressed out, too. It needs a Jack and Coke. Pop!
Yeah, That's huge because you wouldn't think of that in 2022, 2021. Like it should be companies of the future. So it
Right.
just goes back to managing your risk, knowing what you own. And then you got Chevron. I mean, for 5 years, the stock didn't really do anything, but on that last like part of the past year, it's up 49%.
Oh,
CVS.
Jeez.
jeez.
So because oil's up as well, but another good example might be like CVS. Some of these kind of household consumer staple stocks have done very well. That's uh, due to inflation, pretty much. And CVS over the past year is up 44%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so just looking at from a stock equity lens, investor, you got to have a blend of those kind of futuristic innovation companies,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that you also own some of the brick and mortars of Walmart. So that's probably the back to where what happened is that paradigm shift that it's really hard for an investor to predict.
Right. Right. Now, for the, I mean, say you didn't pull out before kind of everything started getting more volatile, I guess you'd say. I mean, they're slowly putting cash into their accounts for investing. I mean, what are pretty much you're saying? If you don't have a gold, you should probably, because it's more of a stable stock, put some in gold and then just kind of branch out to a little bit here and there kind of thing with their new cash that they're going for instead of dumping a bunch of money in a Tesla or something like that.
Yeah, I mean those companies are going to be around for a while, and like I said before, I think on our first discussion is like got to know your goals. If you really want to own an individual company, that can be really cool. I mean, take for example, Berkshire Hathaway.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when I first started, I think their stock was like in the 100,000s, 200,000s, but now the stock just hit a milestone of 500,000 per share.
Wow.
So that's
Wow.
pretty cool, and
Yeah.
that's stock ownership versus if you own an ETF or a mutual fund, you can really find a lot more opportunities in the individual stock investing, but it's much more challenging. So that's
Right.
why you definitely got to understand the risks of stocks versus index investing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'd say for that 5 year portfolio that we go back to, definitely want to have some low volatility indexes, high dividend indexes, factors. So that's where we're at now. And if you're a long term investor, like I said, art could be a great buy. But yeah, the whole trick is to stay invested through it all. So you got to know your risk, and if you
Right.
can't handle the pain, you shouldn't invest that type of style.
Right. Well, what do they say? You don't lose your money until you take it out.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, there's always that
That's a
chance to
great
come
point.
on back.
I
Yeah,
mean, for those who are like, I like, even though I haven't, I don't know, I say this. I'm a big, like, I've done obviously probably more real estate investing than stock market investing lately. But like, if I was a risk taker, like, what are the short term risky options right now? Like, what markets of companies should I be more focused on for that? I mean, obviously, this EV electrical crap is still going. But then you got the gas issue. Obviously, this looming war that we all are chatting about too, as well. Like, what could that play out when it comes to the markets as well?
Yeah, that's a storm of questions right there.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, that was all one thought for me. No.
No, that's right now. It goes back to where we're at, what happened, and where we are now. It's a lot more just risks in the investing marketplace
Yeah.
because there's a war. There's nations that are battling for resources, and that also means profits for those types of stocks too, like the aerospace and defense sector. I mean, they're probably going to make money right now.
All
Every country's
right.
probably going to go, shopping and load up on some tanks
Right.
and
Yeah.
jets. So
Right.
that's kind of what they're having their own show right now to put that out, and
Aerospace.
that could be a positive of the conflict, and hopefully it ends soon. I'm not
Right.
going to predict anything on that because that's
Right.
there's so many different news sources out there sharing all
Right.
these different opinions, and if you're not really there, how can you understand it? But the one thing that we can understand is that it's going to be a lot more challenging, especially with the introduction of crypto. I mean, you saw Ukraine was taking Bitcoin for donations, so that's a really interesting use case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just I do my best just to continue to learn and always sharpening the saw, they say. So if we, shift gears to planning for the future, that's where we can talk about, why you're investing the way you are, risky in an IRA or a 401k, and then you have, your short-term money and how you can invest that because you
Mm-hmm.
Right.
really want to try to combat inflation. Say if you don't need $30,000, $40,000 in the next year and a half or 2 years, then just instead of holding that in the bank, you can find some opportunities in low risk, short term bonds, and then you have just some multi asset funds that are producing 5-6% dividend yield. There's some risk with it, but
Mm-hmm.
you can just delegate that instead of trying to trade stocks all the time. So
Right.
that's where planning for the future is also a big part of working with my clients because we can't control the markets, but we can control how, you know, our money is allocated, where it's
Right.
allocated, and analyze, the future for your retirement. And that's where I want my clients to get, because if I'm there with them for 20 years, that's an amazing relationship. And that's the goal for my clients is to
Right.
get them
Right.
retired.
Right. So what does in that retrospect, I mean, planning for the future, I mean, it's probably what you just kind of talked about, but like, someone my age younger, 3 kids, I mean, let's just play that scenario. Like, I mean, should I be more riskier or should I be also balanced in the
Yeah, it's
portfolio that I'm investing in?
Yeah, that's a great point. And from like a holistic risk approach, you would say, what's the outlook of your career? What's the outlook of, you know, the things that you can control? I don't know, your education, your network and things that can help you define how much risk you can afford to take. And then another thing is, just getting started. I think starting an investment account, just a regular brokerage, that's a great way
Mm-hmm.
to learn and understand it if you're, very early on, because then you don't lock that money up in a retirement account, an IRA. So, I mean, every
Right.
advisor is going to say do an IRA, but if you actually need that money for an emergency or buy a vehicle and you're a young person, then that's I think a smart thing to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
as you get more cash flow, definitely want to have a Roth IRA, or a 401k from your employer.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's something that as an entrepreneur myself, I don't get a 401k, so I have
Right.
to
Right.
think on my terms of risk too in my own personal situation. As the
Right.
market goes up and down, my salary
Por-
kind of fluctuates.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. No, yeah, I mean, it's the same boat for me. I don't have a matching
Nope.
401k. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's all kind of up to where I'm
Right.
investing and where I'm putting it in, and like as the market fluctuates, like ooh, well there goes
Right.
that
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be that's it goes all the way back to, planning is all about risk. How much risk do you
Right.
need to take? Say if you have enough money in your 40s and 50s and you could retire, but you just want to kind of let that money outpace inflation and not take that much risk because you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to you don't need to take the risk if you
Right.
if you have the assets and everything. So it's just about maintaining and preserving your capital at that point. But early on, yeah, definitely accelerating contributions to investment accounts, seeing times like these as buying opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Got to lean into that, and that's where you can kind of get lucky when you find some discounts out there in the market, and you're not always buying at the top. Because in 2021, it was 14 months one of the top records for the S&P 500 didn't go down. So investors kind of got spoiled there, and I think the future ahead will be more challenging. So that's why got to really look where your what account style you have, the future of your career trajectory, because technology is changing, And then another thing is, people are living a lot longer. So that's where,
Yeah.
when you retire at 70, you could live another 30 years. That's another challenging thing for us.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah.
That's why I take my 1-a-day vitamins. That's a company I should look up right now.
1 a day.
I'm shoving them in my mouth every day. But isn't that a Bayer? It's probably a Bayer company, isn't it? It's probably who it is, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. But shoot, I mean, how much is pharmaceuticals made off this last 2 years?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that with all the vaccines and all that crap.
Right.
No, that can't be.
Yes, it's just a lot of connecting the dots as an investor with your personal strategy too.
Well,
because,
yeah, I mean, you think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if things are changing in your personal life, of like, well, I got to start using that more.
Right.
Shoot, I should just look up that company, maybe buy a couple shares.
Right.
I mean, shoot, how many things? I mean, how much money would you made if you'd have just done that? Like, ooh, that's a new product. And
Verizon. I love Verizon. I pay them all a ton of money, so
right.
Heck
but,
yeah.
Yeah, it's just looking at it from a holistic approach as financial planning, and it's tax season now, so that can also be something that we do for our clients. It's tax planning. Understand ways how maybe an LLC could help you, or you could max out your 401k a little bit more. Start a health savings account. There's a lot of tactics and tricks that you can do to basically fortify yourself for the future. And like an interesting thing is health savings accounts. You can invest in them, and your money, I believe, it grows tax free.
Yeah.
Or it's a tax deduction when you put the money in there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's just that's awesome, because you don't need that money and you can let that grow. So definitely, as your wealth builds, have multiple silos of accounts, buckets, as planners call it.
Right. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just what I wanted to end on is preparing for retirement when you get to that age is basically there's a lot of pitfalls that I see people have overloaded in annuities, and that can lock up your money for a while. So and you have to have a good team with you, estate planner, a CPA, advisor, preferably a fiduciary, and that's just kind of the full life cycle. We started with the markets, and then we go into this planning, and it's just now it's becoming more complex than ever with crypto and all those things that I think will be part of the future. I mean, what do you guys think about electronic money and how that's going to convert? How long do you think it'll take, basically?
I don't know. It's been so whatever the freaking word is called. I can't even say it.
Now you got me thinking about it.
Yeah. What's the V word in
volatile?
Volatile. Right? Is that right? Vital?
Now when I say it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
Volatile.
But it just, because it's so up and down, but then you got to, like, didn't they just have a whole bunch of hearings in Congress over crypto?
Yeah, so that was what I was gonna end on.
It's kind of them searching, like, is this good? Is this bad? How do we regulate it? Is this something we need to accept? But I mean, you're seeing, like you said too, Ukraine just accepted. They're accepting donations by crypto, right, from Bitcoin. So I mean, like, it's here to stay. There's no doubt about that. But right, like, how does it change the overall spectrum of money? Being that really crypto is just this fake coin that exists between us exchanging money. I mean numbers per se, right? It's almost like the metaverse. Like you're freaking buying land that's way out in the clouds.
Right, yeah.
Like, what? But you hear people making freaking, like, buttloads of money off of, like, selling this
fake money.
Yeah, like, it's like, where is this all coming from? Whatever. Like I'm drinking a Mountain Dew. Why? Because it's in my hand.
Right. Yeah.
It's right here. Where's it? I got a freaking $20 beer. Oh, do you?
Yeah, that leads me into having a plan. Like someone who's nearing retirement.
It's right here.
That's real. That's the real stuff.
Yeah.
It is money.
Yeah.
But then I have this coin that exists out there.
Yeah.
And it's worth $50,000. You want one?
Okay.
Let me blockchain it to you.
Yeah,
I'm not even saying that correctly.
That's the future of money, though. For someone who's in their 20s, I think they have to learn about that. Someone who's in their 40s and 50s isn't gonna care. They're not gonna care. So that's
my only question too is like, how's it regulated then? Right? Like, who regulates it? How is it regulated? Because I could see that becoming like too controlling. Right? Especially something that like I can't put my hands on, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have $1. It's worth $1. Well, it's maybe not worth $1, but it's $1, right? Like I can control that in a way. Like I could pull my money out and use it. Like so you can with crypto, I guess, but it's out there. I don't know. That's my only concern. I'm thinking like if I'd really kind of dive into my own brain and think of how it works or what it could look like, it's like, well then, where does this go?
Right.
Who controls it? And then if it's all electronically, like I could only see that becoming worse of controlling when it comes to governments. Like being able to literally watch every single dollar move from here to there. Like that to me is like, no.
Right.
That's stupid.
Yeah, that's a scary future.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, they already try to do it right now. They want to, for freaking Venmo and PayPal, $600, we get to see what you're doing with it.
Yep.
Leave my motherfucking money alone, bro. You already tax us enough for crying out loud, and you can't even get that right because we're freaking $30 trillion in debt, you dummies. I mean, jeez Louise.
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, it's true. I mean, I love that picture that you see all the time randomly placed on Facebook, but it's like, okay, let's take our national debt and let's break it down to like normal terms, right? Like a house salary, right? Like you guys know that picture I'm talking about where you like look at it from just like a household income standpoint?
I know I've seen it, but I don't remember.
Where it's just like, yeah, the homeowner is like $100,000 in debt, but only makes $25,000 a year. How do you expect them to survive? Well, that's America. If you just divide it by like 100,000, the numbers of how much they bring in, how much it's like, quit freaking printing all this fake money. We won't have half of this freaking issue with inflation.
Yep.
Or I love how everyone thought $15 an hour is going to solve all of our problems. Yeah. When it comes to, I can't afford anything because I'm only making $8 at a burger flipping job. Well, then go get a different job. I mean, no one's holding you hostage at McDonald's. You want more? Go get more.
Right.
Right? Like, shoot.
Yeah.
But they don't realize.
That's the problem with inflation. That's just
right.
So you're looking ahead, if we have another discussion in a year or 2 or 6 months.
Well, right now we're going about 6 months. Right?
Yeah. Every 6 months we have you on.
So we'll have, I don't know if the war will still be going on, but I think that'll still be in the news. They're going to try
it will.
Pull that through the news. Inflation will probably still be here. It wasn't transitory, as they said.
Right.
Where it happens one time. And that's, I think, going to be a driving force for the news right now. I mean, the best case scenario is that we get some strong earnings into Q4 because I think the markets will be in a little bit of a lull here for the next couple of months.
Are we still waiting for some Q4 reporting?
No, I'm talking about like October 2022.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah, and coming in there, I think the year will finish probably down. I think, and that's just the nature of it. We'll have a little
correction.
1 year, kind of like 2011, where the market was down. 2018, the stock market finished down. So this is normal part of investing, and hopefully this doesn't get worse. Hopefully the war doesn't get worse. That's probably the biggest risk right now for investors.
Yeah.
Right.
To also monitor and keep an eye on these opportunities. In the meantime, do whatever you can do to plan and have a good tax season.
Right.
Better say that.
No, I think really at the end of the day, it comes to this. I know we got to wrap up here in a few seconds, but we talk about it all the time. It's before you go look and buying a house, it's have a conversation, right? It's talking to the right people who can put a plan in place. And I think at the end of the day, we can sit here and talk about what ifs, right? I mean, we talk about that a ton.
Right, yeah.
And it's the same with you in wealth building and managing assets and investing. I could sit and tell it to you, I'm sure you could say this till I'm blue in the face. But until we actually sit down and look at, your income, your outflow, your risk, your desires, your wants, well, what are your goals, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20, however old you particularly are, and start putting a plan in place to grow towards that goal. I mean, sitting still does you nothing good, and I don't think in anything in life. No. Right? I mean, I love my dad to death, and he's going to hear this, but, do not become paralysis by over-analysis, right? Just start doing it. I always would get in an argument with him when the interest rates were low, and he's like, well, I don't want to do it because I'm going to pay closing costs. I'm going to pay all this crap. And I'm like, but you're going to save money. Just do it. He'll probably hate me for saying it, but whatever. But it's just simply the fact that just talk to the professionals like Mr. Timothy Hooker here. Start talking. Sorry for just fudging your name.
No, Tim Hooker.
Tim. Yeah. Mr. Hooker. What's your website again?
MrTimothyHooker.com. And then my company website is GoDWS.com. People get it mistakes for God WS.
Yeah. GoDWS.com.
That's right.
All right. Yeah. I mean, that's what you got to do at the end of the day.
Right.
You got to go to the professional. When you're sick, you go to the doctor. Do you go to the freaking party store? No.
Right.
I mean, maybe.
Costs it.
But no, I think that's what it is. And I'm one of them. I mean, I have stuff, but I need a professional. I say this every time you come on, dude.
Right.
Really, this is another great discussion, gentlemen. And I think we'll look back on all three of these discussions, and hopefully someone can really learn from it and see the evolution of our discussions and risk. I mean, we're talking real numbers, we're talking real results, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
We'll have to look at ARC again.
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months been observation period.
Yeah.
Well, dude, as always, we always love having you on. Clearly, it's your third time on.
Yep.
So we appreciate taking the time away from, obviously you servicing your clients and your family and coming on and chatting with us, but also informing all of our listeners as well. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you
very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Devon and Paul. You guys have a great weekend.
Yep, you got it. I'm Paul Segan with eXp Realty.
I'm Devon Carr with Gold Star Mortgage.
This is the Carr and Segan Show. See you.
The primary purpose of this podcast series is to inform, entertain, and educate. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast series do not constitute legal or professional advice, opinions, or endorsements of any kind. Gold Star Mortgage Financial Group, NMLS 3446, Equal Housing Lender.